Step right up, folks. Don't be shy. DJ Sugarbeer, reaching for the sky. You're locked into WDRA YouTube Radio, where the drama is bold. Get ready for a story, finely told. Tonight, we kick in an epic tale called Love-Honor-Betrayal. It's a saga of secrets, second chances, and consequences that echo through the years. Buckle up, buttercup, 'cause this ain't your grandma's bedtime story. Here's the lowdown from the last episode. In Love-Honor-Betrayal, Part 6 Checkmate April 2016, Sarah's cunning plan unfolds as she manipulates her husband, Mark, and contractor, Tom, into a dangerous confrontation. What starts with a seemingly innocent call to an old friend quickly spirals into a calculated trap. As Mark's suspicion about Tom grows, Sarah orchestrates a shocking scene that tests the limits of loyalty and trust. Meanwhile, in New York, Emily Carter's friend Todd faces legal trouble, leading them on a desperate search for a lawyer that unexpectedly intertwines with Mark's world. Witness the dramatic checkmate moment as past secrets collide with present deception, leaving everyone questioning who is truly in control. Alright, enough talk. Get ready to press play on Destiny. Tonight's episode Love-Honor-Betrayal, Part 7, Forbidden Desires, May 2016.
Our story takes us to Wednesday, May 18, 2016, to the professional consultations between U.S. Army Colonel Mark Jones, JD, LLM, and Emily Carter. Initially focused on Todd's legal predicament, began to bleed into the personal. Emily, with a youthful attentiveness Mark hadn't experienced since his courtship with Sarah, often suggested they discuss strategy over dinner. These outings, ostensibly about Todd's case, became a subtle dance of shared glances and comfortable silences that stretched beyond legal jargon. There was something undeniably familiar about Emily's features, a striking resemblance to a younger Sarah that tugged at a subconscious level within Mark. Her admiration, freely offered and genuine, was a potent balm to Mark's still tender wounds. 20 years prior, Sarah's betrayal with David had been a brutal emotional blow, a gut shot that had taken him decades to even begin to heal from. He had vowed then, in the silent constitution of his heart, never to be made a fool of again. Now his perception, fueled by Sarah's private letters seemingly still fixated on David, was that history was repeating itself, and a nagging fear gnawed at him. What if David, presumably still incarcerated, were to return? Would Sarah revert to her past affections, leaving Mark alone once more? She's still living in his shadow, he'd think, the old pain resurfacing with a vengeance so early in their marriage. Compounded by the unsettling thought of David's eventual release, he found himself increasingly drawn to Emily's vibrant energy, a temporary and intoxicating escape from the ghosts of his past and the unsettling present of his very new marriage. Looking at Emily sometimes felt like looking back in time, a bittersweet echo of the woman he had first fallen for. Her attention felt like a shield against the vulnerability he swore he'd never feel again. She sees me, he often thought, a dangerous seed taking root so early in their marriage, a subconscious echo of the validation he felt was missing, and a confusing replay of a familiar affection. And with David still a potential threat in the back of his mind, Mark clung to Emily's present affirmation. Their dinners evolved. From hurried meals near the courthouse, they progressed to quieter bistros Emily knew, where conversation flowed more freely, touching on shared interests in local art and Mark's experiences in the military. Emily listened with rapt attention, her genuine interest a stark contrast to the perceived emotional distance he felt from Sarah. Subconsciously, Emily found herself drawn to Mark's strength and stability. Having navigated a childhood with an absent father, she was often drawn to older, accomplished men, a yearning for a paternal figure she never truly had. Mark, successful, decisive, and seemingly worldly, unknowingly filled a void. The fact that she could afford a long-distance relationship, a testament to her own burgeoning success as a model, didn't negate this deeper, unmet need. Moreover, she sensed a vulnerability beneath his confident exterior, a flicker of pain that resonated with her own past. Back home, Sarah sat on the edge of their bed, her fingers flying across her phone as she texted her friend Katie.
Hey girl. Mark's been so distant lately. It's like he's here but not really here, you know? I try to talk but he just seems preoccupied. It's making me feel uneasy. Remember that sleazy contractor, terrible Tom Franklin? The one who tried to blackmail us? Well, let's just say that situation has been handled. We baited him, he made a move, Mark saw red, as you can imagine. And then? Well, let's just say Tom has a secret he'd rather keep buried. The one about your cousin, remember? Consider him neutralized. But this Mark thing, it's different. I keep replaying our wedding day in my head, the promises we made. And now it feels like there's this invisible wall between us. I just want to understand what's going on. I even tried to plan a special dinner next month, but his responses were so lukewarm. It's disheartening. I don't know what's going on in that head of his.
Sarah sighed, placing her phone on the nightstand. A little while earlier, she had noticed an email notification pop up on their home computer, a reservation confirmation from Culinary Canvas for Mark at 8 p.m. He hadn't mentioned it to her. A knot of suspicion tightened in her stomach. While she knew Mark sometimes had to entertain clients, Culinary Canvas was different. It was their place, the restaurant where he had proposed. He would only take someone truly special there for a romantic evening. The fact that he hadn't invited her, coupled with his recent distance, sent a shiver of unease down her spine. Who was he taking there? She wondered, a seed of dread taking root. Deciding she needed to know, Sarah grabbed her keys. Her new Genesis luxury sedan, a recent gift for Mark, felt heavy in her hand. Usually it brought her joy, but tonight it was merely a vehicle to transport her growing anxieties. She drove towards downtown, her destination Culinary Canvas. The city lights blurred past as her mind raced with possibilities, none of them comforting as she approached the restaurant. She deliberately parked a few blocks away, far enough that Mark wouldn't immediately recognize her car, but close enough that she could observe the entrance. She settled into her seat, the soft leather cool beneath her that a few minutes later she saw him. Mark emerged from the revolving doors, and her breath hitched. He wasn't alone. A young woman, her arm linked intimately with his, walked beside him. Sarah watched, her heart pounding a painful rhythm against her ribs, as Mark and the woman laughed, their body language undeniably familiar and affectionate. From this distance, the woman's features were indistinct. A cold certainty washed over Sarah. Her suspicions were confirmed. The romantic setting she associated with Culinary Canvas was indeed being shared, but not with her. The secret consumption of Sarah's letters continued, each stolen glimpse into her private thoughts twisting Mark's perception. He saw not a woman grappling with her past, but one still tethered to a love that wasn't him. These aren't letters to a husband, he'd fume silently, the raw honesty confirming his deepest insecurities so soon after their vows. She's still living in the shadow of David. This misinterpretation fueled a growing sense of betrayal, a simmering resentment that Sarah was emotionally unavailable, still pining for a ghost while he, her new husband, was physically present. This reinforced his flawed justification. She's still hung up on him. And when he gets out, the unspoken fear hung heavy in his thoughts. I won't be the only one hurting this time. And in Emily's familiar smile, in the curve of her jawline, he saw echoes of the Sarah he had loved, a confusing and ultimately destructive comfort. This feeling of betrayal, so raw and immediate in his young marriage, served as a twisted justification for the solace he found in Emily's company. During one dimly lit dinner, after Emily had expressed concern for his well-being beyond Todd's case, Mark found himself confiding in her. He painted a picture of a distant wife, a woman whose thoughts seemed perpetually elsewhere.
It's like she's not even here, Emily. Barely 6 months married, and I feel more alone than ever.
Emily's sympathetic gaze and gentle words offered a stark contrast to the perceived coldness at home, deepening the emotional connection between them. He carries so much pain, Emily thought, observing the shadows in his eyes. She had her own vulnerabilities, her longing for a steady, reliable presence in her life. Mark, despite being married, projected an aura of strength and capability that she found intensely appealing. She wasn't naive. She understood the implications of their growing intimacy, but the connection she felt with Mark, the way he seemed to see and appreciate her, filled the void she had long carried. There was a shared understanding that transcended the professional, a silent acknowledgement of a mutual need that a few days later, Mark found himself sitting across from Chauncey Miller in their law office. The weight of his choices pressed heavily on him, a stark contrast to the fleeting comfort he found with Emily.
Rough week. Ranger?
Something like that, Chaunce. It's complicated. It involves Sarah.
Marriage can be that way. Spill it. You know I'm not just your partner. I've been there, brother. Remember the whole debacle with Lisa?
Yeah, I remember. That was epic. I think Sarah's still in love with David.
I feel your pain, I do. 20 years is a long time to carry that kind of hurt. And feeling like history's repeating itself. That's tough. And the uncertainty of David, that would eat at anyone. But are you sure you're seeing those letters clearly? Grief can look a lot like love from the outside. And sometimes, our own insecurities can color our perceptions, make shadows look like monsters.
But I saw what I saw, Chaunce. The raw emotion. It felt like she was still with him. And what if he gets out?
We need to talk about something else here, something professional. This woman, Emily Carter, she's connected to Todd's case, right? She was with him when you first met him.
Yeah, she's the friend of his.
A friend. Mark, you know the rules. We can't have personal entanglements with individuals connected to our clients, especially not in a way that could compromise our judgment or create a conflict of interest. What exactly is your relationship with Miss Carter?
We've been seeing each other.
Mark, you're in a very new marriage, and you're involved with someone connected to a client? This is incredibly problematic on so many levels. Ethically, professionally, personally. What if this comes out during Todd's case? It could jeopardize everything we've worked for. Todd's plea deal, our firm's reputation, your career. Forget the personal hurt for a second, though that's serious enough. As your partner and your friend, I have to tell you this is a disaster waiting to happen. You need to extricate yourself from this situation immediately. Mark, for your marriage, for your career, for Todd's sake, for your own integrity. Look, brother, I get it. You're hurting. You feel like Sarah's not there. But this isn't the answer. This is digging a deeper hole for yourself. You need to talk to Sarah, confront your fears directly, and end this affair before it destroys everything. Emily, what does she want out of this?
She says she cares about me.
Mark, be honest with yourself. What are you offering her? A married man, still processing his past? And what is she offering you? A temporary escape? This isn't sustainable, and it's going to hurt a lot of people. Mark, you know the drill. Communication, honesty. It's the foundation, whether you're building a legal case or a life together. Before you let this perception become your reality, maybe, just maybe, talk to her. See what she says. You face down enemy fire, brother. You can face a difficult conversation. Don't let the ghosts of the past, or the what-ifs of the future, destroy what you have in the present without even trying to understand it. And for God's sake, Mark, end things with Emily before this blows up in all our faces.
Mark met with Todd, a nervous energy radiating from him, in his office. Emily sat beside Todd, her hope a fragile thing. Mark outlined the strategy. Todd would plead guilty to a lesser charge in exchange for his full cooperation and testimony against Elias Thorne, the alleged leader of the retail theft ring. The courtroom was a study in hushed anticipation as the plea hearing commenced.
Mr. Jones, is your client prepared to enter a plea?
Your Honor, Mr. Todd Miller will plead guilty to the amended charge of misdemeanor theft.
Your Honor, we recommend a fine of $500, a suspended 30-day jail sentence, and 1 year of probation, contingent on Mr. Miller's full cooperation and testimony against Elias Thorne.
Mr. Miller, do you understand these terms?
Yes, Your Honor.
The plea is accepted. Mr. Miller, you are sentenced accordingly, with the explicit condition of your cooperation.
The successful resolution of Todd's case hung in the air, a fragile sense of accomplishment for Mark. Emily, her gratitude warm and palpable, suggested a celebratory dinner. Mark, a reckless impulse seizing him, suggested Culinary Canvas, a rooftop restaurant enclosed in glass, rotating slowly atop a 6-story building in the bustling downtown area. offering a panoramic view of the city from its high vantage point. It took Emily a moment, a slight furrow in her brow, before she agreed. He knew the significance of the place. It was where less than a year ago, under the soft, warm lighting, he had asked Sarah to marry him. A perverse sense of nostalgia, twisted with his current feelings of betrayal in his still fresh marriage and the underlying fear of losing her to David, drew him back. And in Emily's familiar smile, he saw a ghost of that hopeful night, a night he now feared was built on a shaky foundation. For Emily, the choice of venue gave her pause. She knew of Mark's recent marriage and wondered if this location held a particular significance for him and his wife. Yet, the anticipation of spending more intimate time with Mark outweighed her hesitation. Culinary Canvas was a spectacle of modern elegance. Enclosed in glass, it offered an uninterrupted, high-up view of a glittering cityscape. The restaurant rotated gently, providing a 360-degree panorama. Mark, Emily, and a relieved Todd were seated at a comfortable table with a stunning view. The initial conversation was light, filled with Todd's expressions of gratitude and relief today as the evening progressed. Fueled by good wine and Emily's attentive conversation directed towards Mark, Todd began to sense a shift in the atmosphere. The shared glances between Mark and Emily, the comfortable silences that seemed to hum with unspoken understanding, made him feel increasingly like an outsider. After finishing his main course, Todd cleared his throat.
Well, my legal eagles, this calls for a disappearing act. Wouldn't want to cramp your style, you know? Consider me a grateful ghost, fading into the night. Mark, my man, you're a lifesaver. Emily, a pleasure as always. But a wise man knows when his presence has reached its peak, or perhaps its third wheel-ish nadir. Farewell, lovebirds. May your victory celebrations be victorious.
He winked broadly and sauntered off that a comfortable silence settled between them. Emily reached across the table, her hand covering his. Her touch was warm, direct, and held a subtle invitation. Mark looked down at their joined hands, a conflict raging within him. The ghosts of his proposal to Sarah in this very place seemed to swirl around them in the softly lit, glass-enclosed space, a stark accusation against his still new vows. Yet, the present warmth of Emily's hand offered a potent escape, a tangible connection in his perceived isolation. And the familiar curve of her fingers against his sent a confusing jolt through him, a reminder of what he thought he might lose if David returned. Emily felt a surge of anticipation at his touch, a validation of the connection she felt they shared. She knew the risks, the potential for heartbreak, but in that moment, the pull towards Mark was undeniable. He lifted his gaze to meet Emily's. Her eyes held a soft, questioning tenderness. In that moment, fueled by the wine, the evocative setting, and the gnawing ache of his perceived betrayal, a dam within him broke. He squeezed her hand, a silent acknowledgement of the unspoken desire that had been simmering between them, a desire tinged with a strange sense of déjà vu and a desperate need to feel secure against the phantom of David. Emily's heart quickened. His touch felt like a promise, a silent agreement to explore the unspoken feelings between them. Later, instead of returning to Emily's non-existent apartment, they found themselves in a luxurious hotel suite. The room was a haven of plush comfort. The air crackled with a nervous anticipation. The city lights painted shadows across the opulent space as they stood facing each other. The conversation was hushed, punctuated by long, searching glances. It was Emily who closed the distance, her hand gently cupping his cheek. Her lips were soft against his, a tentative exploration that quickly deepened. In her touch, Mark found a ghost of the passion he once shared with Sarah, a confusing and ultimately dangerous comfort, a temporary shield against his fears. For Emily, this was a step further into a territory she knew was complicated, but the intensity of her feelings for Mark overrode her caution. As their intimacy deepened, Mark's phone vibrated on the nightstand. He glanced at the screen, a text from Sarah. The simple words, "home soon," flashed in the dim light, a stark intrusion of reality into his carefully constructed escape. A wave of guilt washed over him, momentarily eclipsing the stolen pleasure. The face of the woman he was betraying, the woman who sometimes looked back at him from Emily's eyes, flashed in his mind, along with the unsettling image of David potentially reclaiming her. Emily saw the flicker of guilt cross Mark's face at the text message. A shadow of doubt crossed her own mind. A brief moment of guilt washed over her, and feelings of love, real love, even if misguided.